Hello, everyone, and welcome to the panel discussion on social innovation, taking place as part of the London College of Communication Postgraduate Showcase. I am Maria, one of the students that's graduating this year, and will be moderating this panel for you today. In this event, the graduating students will be speaking about their major projects on social innovation. After this talk, we encourage you to explore all the students' portfolios. The links will be shared throughout this event in the chat box. Before we start, a few house rules. This event is recorded and will be made public on the LCC YouTube channel afterwards. By attending a live event, guests agree to their contributions being captured and used for this purpose. We encourage you to ask your questions into the Q&A, and we will get through them during the designated Q&A part of the event. Our community guidelines, which we expect all participants in virtual events to abide by, have been posted in the chat. And lastly, I encourage you to share your thoughts on the entire showcase and this event across social media by using the hashtags LCC Postgrad Show and SD Apocalypse. I will now like to very shortly introduce you to the social innovation world. These students are game changers. They care about people. They put research at the heart of their solutions to create a positive impact in our community and our planet. From food poverty to guide dogs, they aim to tackle society's biggest challenges. So without further ado, I would like to invite the emerging service designers to explain to us a bit more about their insightful projects. I will start with Jean, who designed a travel platform providing getaways and pre-planned itineraries for more modern Thai travelers to discover and exchange travel ideas in the community. So Jean, could you share with us what inspired you to explore around the project?
Thank you for the question, Maria. So the global economy has been impacted by coronavirus along several dimensions, and we couldn't travel as we used to do. In most destinations, domestic tourism generates higher revenues than international one. Thailand tourism makes up a large amount of country's GDP. That's why it strikes my attention. And during the primary research, I have interviewed Thai travelers about challenging traveling in the country and hospitality business owners to find insights from both sides. The key finding is a tourism-related business in many provinces only rely on foreign tourists. And how could we help them survive without foreigners? Another key insight from travelers is a high spending group normally doesn't travel in the country because the experience is the same. They are willing to spend on something new like traveling abroad. So these insights led me to the hypothesis, how might we encourage Thai travelers to domestic travel by triggering ideas for alternative travel in order to recover the tourism industry in Thailand to become resilient in the long term.
Thank you, Jean. Yes, countries are indeed struggling with their economies now, especially tourism. Quite a relevant issue to address now. Thank you. Now I would like to ask Sherry, who developed an easy-to-use service that empowers elderly who travel alone to get a better user experience in the airport. Sherry, why did you choose this topic?
Well, thank you, Maria. On the one hand, in China, there are lots of old people lost in the information in modern airports. For example, local governments require people to show their health code on their phones to enter some public places during the epidemic period, especially in some public transportation places. But actually, many old people don't know how to do that. So I think it has always been a social contradiction, but it will just attract attention during the epidemic period. On the other hand, the services for the old people at the airport are not perfect now. For example, some elderly services mean that the old need to use wheelchairs, which doesn't take into account old people's self-esteem because some healthy old people don't want to use that. So I want to help elderly get a more convenient airport service, which can make them more independent, free, and happy when they travel alone. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Sherry. Indeed, elderly people get lost with the amount of information inside the airports, and it's really helpful to provide them some guidance. So now I would like to ask Jack, who designed a mental health service for high school students in China to build effective communication skills, focusing on conflict prevention with family members once they moved away from home. Jack, what was your motivation to research this topic?
Well, thank you, Maria. That's a very good question. It's bringing me many memory when I begin my project. Well, my project relate to the world situation because of the pandemic. Most of us have to stay at home and social distance from others, and we lost face-to-face communication for a period, which made me think about the family members' interpersonal relationship. Like in adult children and their parents in China, they are particularly good because before the children becoming the adults, they are teenagers and within a highly competitive education environment, and they will keep in close contact with their parents. But after the college entrance examination, they often need to leave home or go to the college in some another city or some place that place is far away from their hometown. During that period, both parents and children haven't developed a good and effective communication habits to adapt this kind of change of the relationships. So this kind of background context inspired me to focus on the family communication issues. Make me think about how to make adult children have effective communication habit with their parents before they leave home. And also, the most of the Chinese family they might face in this challenge in future. So that's why I want to design the service based on China. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Jack. Definitely building a communication system for students who leave their houses will improve the future of their families and their ecosystem. Now I would like to ask Laura, who designed a new food bank model offering more dignity and choice to its users. What was the problem you were trying to solve, and how does your solution aim to solve this?
Thanks for the question, Maria. So for my project, I collaborated with two organisations in Camden, the borough in London, Somers Town Community Association and Urban Community Projects, along with a group of other local organisations. And the idea was to develop an alternative to their current food bank model, which was running on the kind of traditional food parcel model. Obviously, this year we've seen an enormous rise in food bank use. That rise was happening anyway, and COVID has just made this worse. So that's obviously kind of the main overriding problem that I was aiming to solve. But there were kind of two elements to the problem that this project worked on, and then kind of two elements to the solution as well. So the main problem I found that kind of guided this project was that the traditional model of the food bank, the food parcel model, caused a kind of lack of dignity for users and contributes to a kind of perceived stigma of receiving charity. And the second aspect was that although a lot of food banks recognise this and they recognise this kind of need to evolve, and there's now an opportunity because of COVID-19, many of them don't know how to adapt, don't have the time, don't have the resources to kind of make a transition to a newer model. So the way we aim to solve this problem was firstly by developing a new model for the food bank in Somers Town, which was Urban Community Projects. And we together developed this model called the Community Hub, which offers shoppers a more kind of normal shopping experience, which gives them more control and reduces these stigmatizing feelings of receiving food packages. And it also provides a wraparound service to link users with other supportive services in the area, which we found lots of food banks were already doing informally anyway. And the second kind of step to this solution was that we developed a guide and a toolkit to provide a model to replicate and to help other food banks make that transition as well.
Thank you, Lau. I completely agree that the traditional model of food banks isn't dignified for users, the approach. Incredible challenge to address. My next question goes to Jonathan, who developed a community skilled bank platform, fostering socializing and new business opportunities through local connections. So Jonathan, what is the background of your project?
Thank you, Maria. My project started out by talking to elderly people through the Age UK Lembas project, thinking about how to increase resiliency and income post-retirement. And then with the onset of COVID, I had conversations with other parents and friends about the future. We all know that there are fewer work opportunities and no job security. But the challenge of COVID is also a chance for people to prepare for the future with greater energy. People are much more open about reskilling and preparing for later life in advance. It's true that COVID has reduced the breadth of contact, but through it we can strengthen our connection within local communities, socially and economically. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Increasing resilience and income level post-retirement is indeed a relevant issue to address now. So now I would like to further understand the insights you collected throughout your projects. And I would like to start asking Angela, who delivered a service design playbook designed for community-minded organizations to take a systemic, collaborative approach in their work. Angela, can you tell me why you chose to work on this topic and what you discovered?
Thanks for the question, Maria. What I noticed, especially during COVID, was that different sectors often don't work together even when they're trying to achieve similar goals, leading to duplication of work and efforts and enforcing silos when it comes to sharing knowledge, connections, resources, and expertise. So while I initially began this exploration trying to understand how to foster meaningful collaborations across sectors, particularly how the private sector's potential could be tapped into, my research actually uncovered two main findings. So one, that community organizations are often the ones that are on the ground creating the most impact in their communities. And two, they're also the ones that often have the least power and influence in any room of stakeholders. Therefore, I realized that I wanted my solution to support them to better do their work and to build more strategic partnerships, ultimately amplifying the positive impact that could be created in their local communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ange. There's a tremendous opportunity to generate cross-collaboration between organizations, especially when they have similar goals. Your project considers an important systemic approach. My next question goes to Eva, who explored a community building project that helps new residents who want to get integrated into the local life by providing them with local living guidance and social channels. Eva, what was the research area you worked on? And can you share with us some insights?
Hi, thanks for asking, Mario. My project is about community building in China, which focuses on the building of personal relationship rather than the construction of space. So my research starts from a phenomenon that in some urban cities, that people live in the same community, they lack of social contact, especially for the tenants. So I conduct my research in a community in Shanghai, China, and I found that the people living here, they have the quite intense relationship. And also I found their community activities are quite monotonous. The activities now are mainly targeted at older people. So the young people feel that they are excluded from the community. So in the beginning, I plan to hold diverse activities so they can engage more people and build more connections between people, no matter young or old, new residents or local residents. But soon I find this idea didn't attract many new residents. And I asked why. They told me that if someone invite me to join, I would go. But I would feel very uncomfortable if there are so many strangers on the event. And also someone said, oh, this idea looks pretty good, but I don't know where I can get the news. So I find that it's very hard for new residents to fit in local, because when they first moved into the community, they find they can't get any support from the community center or from the neighborhood committee, and it had no access to the current local information. And I think this finding has totally revised the assumption that I raised before. And my key learnings in this project, I think, is that the insights you gain in the beginning might change as your research go further. And that's why we need to keep testing it and revise it. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. It is really important to be inclusive with new neighbors and generate a sense of community for them. You never know where the background they have and if they need help. I would now like to ask Fancy, who designed a multiple channel service to communicate with different people and encourage them to support guide dogs and blind people. Can you explain about the target user?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Maria. I defined the target user based on the context and the insights. In China, there are 17 million visually impaired persons, but only about 200 guide dogs. And each blind applicant waits at least 10 years to be matched with a guide dog. And worse still, the lives of blind people with guide dog are extremely inconvenient. They are often refused access to the public transport and the public place. The public in China have a lower acceptance of guide dogs because people don't have the awareness of that and were not informed about that. So the main service proposal is promote guide dogs and to people who have different channels of receiving information. And therefore, the main target user is the public, the young public. They have high interest and high influence. They are very open and can have a big influence on others. And they can be the users and also the potential promoters and the builders of the service. Another important user is the neighbors who are living in the same area as the guide dog base. They have a direct influence on the socialization training and the guide dog working. Therefore, they're also the important user of the service. And these two groups have the most direct and significant impact on guide dogs. And we would love to help them to gain a better understanding.
Thank you, Fancy. Certainly, young people can be the main users and promoters of your service. They were born and with access to technology, so they know how to use these multi-channels. That was very insightful. Now, I would like to further understand about the challenges that you face throughout your projects. So I would like to ask Laura, whose service is a new food bank model. How did you overcome challenges working on a sensitive topic such as food poverty?
Thanks for the question, Maria. So what I did actually is not engage directly with users until the define stage of my process, whereas traditionally in service design methodology, it's kind of the first stage that you really get to know the users. So what I did is I conducted interviews with experts, people working with the users in the area, so that I could find out as much as possible about the kinds of problems faced, so that then I could assess what methods and kind of questions would be appropriate. So during my 3 co-design, or I always call them co-define workshops, I ensured that activities that we ran during those workshops enabled participants to share as much or as little personal experience as they were comfortable with. So for example, we co-created personas, and doing that, participants could draw from their own experience to create these personas, but they didn't have to reference themselves kind of personally if they didn't want to. And kind of found that this activity not only acted as a conversation starter to gain more insight, but also meant that the resulting personas were way more firmly grounded in their context and avoided stereotypes. Whereas if I'd taken information away from the my original research and tried to do that myself, I might have kind of got the problems wrong and you know, risked stereotyping the kind of personas that resulted. And I found that actually most of the participants were really happy to talk about their personal experiences. And I don't know if that was just I was lucky with the participants, or whether actually using that persona exercise and the other exercises kind of helped people relax and feel comfortable sharing their personal experiences.
Thank you, Laura. Understanding and observing your potential user first sounds like a smart workaround to such a sensitive topic. Once you've already have enough knowledge, it's really important to approach them as you did. I would now like to ask Eva, with a service that helped new residents better integrate into local life, how did you engage people to offer assistance as the content of the service guidebook is collected from local residents?
Thanks, Maria. That's a good question. In this project, I held a co-design workshop to encourage local people to share their living experience, and it was operated in a playful way. First, I collect the questions from users that I care about, and I printed them onto the colorful question cards, so participants could write answers on it and post it to the public whiteboard, where everyone can see it as well. And the questions are related to 4 areas, like the recommendation of local shops, their favorite space, activities, and some social tips. So in this way, I could collect many useful suggestions from the local point of view. And also to keep the task simple and straightforward, I distribute the question card into 5 categories. So each card has only one short sentence, and the questions are written in a form like this. I would like to recommend because so participants could just pick one that they like. Also, to engage more people, I set the place in the community center, so where people would normally come in the winter holiday. And I also prepared some postcards as a gift for them. On the event, I collected many information that people provided and then put into the local guidebook. It was so great to see so many people offer their willingness to help new residents, and to show my accomplishment, and all the participants were appreciated in the corner of the page. In a nutshell, my suggestions of engaging people is choosing the place where people feel safe and comfortable, keeping the task simple and fun, and you can prepare some gifts if it's possible. I think that's helpful.
Thank you, Eva. That's totally helpful. So a playful and interactive approach is a very useful method to engage any target group. This will be very useful for future designers. My next question goes to Fancy, with a multiple channel service to support guide dogs and blind people. Fancy, could you explain a bit more about the multiple channels?
Yes, thank you, Maria. The biggest challenge of my project is make the service more accessible to users with different touch points, and that's the reason for multiple channels. In the research phase, I found that in China, the different people such as the old neighbors and the younger public have completely different touch points and channels of receiving the information. For example, the young public are more likely to have access to the online information and the digital devices. And while the older neighbors prefer to get information through the word of mouth, newspapers, and their own experience, but they are all very important and have a direct impact on the guide dogs and blind people. So I have therefore designed the multiple channel service for them. Specifically, there is a website and campaign which is aimed at younger user. And as an upgrade, there is also a Guide Dog Festival, which is an offline service to connect everyone and for people who have low accessibility to the information. So they will have strong link between them, and people can engage with any channel they have access to, and they will gradually be able to participate in the whole service.
Thank you, Fancy. It is very interesting how you thought about making your service accessible to every possible user, considering different touch points to reach all of them. So my next question goes to Sherry, with a service that empowers elderly to travel alone. Sherry, I wonder what impressed you the most when you did your work? Sherry, you're muted. I believe she may be experiencing some technical issues, so I'll move on to the next question. So I would like to ask Jack, who designed a mental health service for high school students' families to build effective communication between them. How did you work with high school counselors to deliver this service? And how did you engage high school students and their families in this service?
Oh, thank you, Maria. It's a very good question. I think the both question, my key answer is motivation. As a service designer, I have my motivation to design the service. And also, if we define the motivation of the stakeholders and the user, it's very helpful for our project. Like the high school psychological counselor is my key stakeholders and the main service provider. And the service needs to offer the value for user and create value for stakeholder as well. So first, I analyze how counselor provide the psychological service for students before, and what is their motivation to provide the service of building the effective communication for student families. And second, for the high school student and their family, I did the same things. I found a consensus that is they all agreed a healthy and a good family communication environment would help improve the students' academic performance. Actually, my final service direction is to prevent the communication conflict for the families. But to attract the high school families to participate, it is necessary to promote that point is it will be benefit for their student academic performance. It's good to the psychological counselors and the high school students. So only after the families have participated in this service, they will realize that the greatest value actually is the service will help them to establish the effective family communication habits. So this is the method and how I engage the counselor and my user. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Definitely analyzing students and counselors' motivations and interest is a key aspect to empathize and engage with people testing your service. That's very insightful. So we have Sherry back. So Sherry, I would like to ask you towards your service that empowers elderly people to travel alone. What wondered and impressed you the most when you did your work? Oh no, she's gone again. Oh, okay, sorry about that. We'll just move forward. So I would like to ask Esther, who designed an investigative source sharing community, which helped journalists and NGOs to collaborate in a meaningful and effective way. Esther, you start your project with identifying different users, different issues existing in the press industry. At what point did you consider non-news partners like NGOs, local communities as part of the new ecosystem?
Thank you, Maria. So in the beginning of the pandemic, there is quite a long period that I feel pessimistic about the daily news and overwhelmed, and which exposes so many social issues, polarized opinions, and heartbreaking stories. And I start to feel helpless and don't know what I can do. Then I started wondering, how can I see the big pictures to understand the reality better, and how can I decide to actually to assist in helping those people who are suffering. Then as I approach people who worked or volunteered at their local communities, NGOs, and social groups, the more I'm aware that there are a lot of information resources that are uncovered by the media. Like they have the expertise, life experiences, and especially NGOs, they conducted report with data. And those organizations, they were eager to raise people's awareness on specific issues, but many of them, they don't really have the information strategy to efficiently communicate with the audience, with the public. And in the meanwhile, journalists, they are seeking for these real human stories and these data that will interest their readers. And so that's the starting point of the collaborative journalism. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Nowadays, journalists often show mediatic news, hence it is really important the challenge you work on to uncover the big picture to keep our community informed. Now I would like to further understand a bit about the benefits of your projects for our community. So I would like to ask Jean with a travel platform to explore alternative travel in Thailand. Who does get the benefit from your project?
Great question, Maria. So first of all, the primary impact is a rise in quality of travel among Thai travelers by helping them with trip organizing and showing them alternative travel ideas from other travelers, not a touring companies. Secondly, the local independent business. Because of the pandemic and digitalization, many businesses and services needed to adjust and change their business model. Powerplan connects them with customers by offering deals and promoting them to the user's eyes. And thirdly, a community. As many cities and communities mostly rely on foreign tourists, the project aimed to create fundamental tourism strategies and collaborate locals with hospitality sectors to create jobs and opportunities, and lastly, become resilient.
Thank you, Jean. That's a holistic vision. So impacting travelers who are the users of the service, also local businesses who usually provide the service, and lastly, the entire community. Thank you. So my next question goes to Kate, who designed a virtual life and career coaching that help women in the UK with low and middle income who want to manage their life and career by guided self-reflection, personalized information, and peer support. Kate, life coaching is a well-known and widespread service. What's innovative in your service?
That's a good question, Maria. So first of all, my service is virtual. So that means affordable and accessible, even if you have a low income or even if you live in further areas. Secondly, a woman needs to spend just 15 minutes a day. So it's a solution for very busy or tired women like single mothers or women with several jobs. Also, the service works on mobile phones, so women can use it while commuting or queuing, for example. And thirdly, there is a personalization element. So when a woman signs up for the course, she gets an information that is created or chosen according to her living conditions, like marital status or income level. And finally, every woman is a part of the community where she can get support, ask for help, exchange knowledge. The community also can be helpful for other less obvious needs, like building network, getting role models, building self-confidence, or just for psychological comfort and mental health. So a combination of all these simple at the first sight features makes the service innovative, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. I've never seen before a virtual coaching of 15 minutes service per day that supports and connects women with the community. That's completely innovative. Thank you. So my next question goes to Jonathan with a community skill bank platform to generate local connections. So Jonathan, what did you expect to be the impact of your project?
Thank you, Maria. Win-Win is a community-focused platform that offers all kinds of different possibilities, from socializing to brainstorming to venturing ideas and creating new industry. There are distinctive values in community-focused outreach, such as participation, solidarity, and caring. The aim is to build meaningful connections and develop new business opportunities through ideas and skill sharing, with the goal of encouraging community connection for simply socializing, boosting local economies, stimulating enterprise, and creating employment opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. So the overall aim is to generate an impact by building meaningful connections that contribute to developing new business opportunities through ideas and skill sharing. That would be a tremendous contribution both to the community and to their economy. I would like to ask Kate whose project is a virtual life and career coaching for women in the UK. So your project is about women's career. Why does your solution include life coaching?
During the research, I realized that women's life outside the workplace can impact their career even more than the work environment. So it became clear for me that it might be extremely hard to even think about the career for women who are overloaded with housework, childcare, or who experience discrimination. So also, if they're afraid of failure, if they feel lack of support, or just don't feel safe, the career building will be a back burner for them. I believe that helping women to improve their lives proactively, look for opportunities and notice them, ask for help is the first and essential step in towards helping them their career building. That's why I included life coaching in my service and focused on that in the first place.
Thank you, Kate. Women definitely need to be taught to ask for help when necessary in order to succeed with their careers. Sometimes they have an incredible home workload additional to their professional lives. So my next question goes to Angela, who worked on fostering cross-sector collaboration in local communities. So Ange, what was your final service and what was your process to get there?
Thank you, Maria. So my final service was a collection of activities, methods, and templates that are based on service design methodology that support community-minded organizations to take a more holistic, systemic, and collaborative approach in their work and in their partnerships. Through partnering with the SDCA, so the Somerstown Community Association, on a project to co-design the future of the community center, I was able to engage deeply with many community stakeholders from different sectors in a particular neighborhood. And while conducting my research, I heard from many different stakeholders as well that they too were very interested to take a similar approach for their own futures. I realized then that it might be useful to replicate my process in some way so that more community organizations could implement service design methods to reflect on their workflows through a different lens. Service design and social work actually utilize many of the same skill sets, such as empathy, active listening, and creating user-centered services, which makes this pairing actually a perfect match. So therefore, I developed and tested a series of frameworks through 4 well-attended online workshops with 49 stakeholders, engaging them to think systemically about the ecosystem of need in their communities, to create new ideas with context together, and to build off their collective expertises to think up collaborative and actionable projects. Alongside this, I created and tested separate frameworks that could help an organization, so STCA in this case, to reflect and improve on their service and value proposition, using different methods to set the staff up to confidently communicate their value to themselves and to potential partners. So this work was finally collected into an open source service design playbook I created for community organizations to use these activities online or offline with detailed instructions and templates to take them through this entire process. Through working so closely with the community, it allowed me to dream about this life for this piece of work beyond my own project. Through testing feedback, I realized that there was genuine interest and potential for this playbook to benefit these organizations who are doing such incredible work to support their communities. To have this opportunity to support these individuals has been super, super rewarding, and it creates a lasting impression for my own career aspirations to continue creating meaningful work.
Thank you, Ange. So in your process of understanding how to foster cross-sector collaborations, you realized the importance of organizations to first reflect on their own values and services before they could even begin to look outwards in creating meaningful external partnerships. That's very helpful for organizations to learn and to embrace. My last question goes to Esther with a source sharing community for journalists and NGOs. So Esther, what did you learn from this journey with NGOs and journalists in order to better deliver their stories and have a voice?
Thank you, Maria. So when we talk about big social issues, always connect to the life experience of people, like how this affect people's life individually, and how is this new system reflect on people's choices and the work they do in society. then what's really important in keep doing these things and keep people's attention is to be connected to the group of people who share the same values and ideas, so that you are not alone in doing it, but actually you can feel people care, and together we can actually make a difference. Then finally, I guess not just telling people about the issues, but also the great work that is going on in addressing those issues, so people can say, actually, there's a way to make a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. So connecting with people experiences, keeping in touch with people with the same values and ideas, and lastly, encouraging people to solve the issues. That's very insightful. So thank you so much to all our panelists for sharing your insights. All the projects were super interesting and valuable. We'll now be taking questions from the audience. So we've got a question for Angela, but anyone can go ahead and answer this. So social isolation and mental health support were addressed most for a few times during your workshops with stakeholders. Have you thought about designing for these specific needs?
So I can, I guess, hop in first, and if anyone else wants to talk about this as well, that'd be great. So social isolation and mental health, I realized, should be issues that are integrated within every level of our community supports. So not only as formal services, but hearing from participants really made me think about how could this be offered informally? So how can formal structures support the wider community to create better supports to one another? And how can they kind of build this training system where people know how to do this better? In this case, the hope for my research was to support others to do this work, but definitely, like I said in my last answer, I'm very interested in tackling more of these large systemic issues in my work.
Thank you, Angela. Would anyone else like to add something to this? So we'll move to the next one from Alex. So funding in the public sector and for social design is often extremely limited. What have you learned from what you created that could be applied or scaled to other audiences or in other contexts as at a minimal cost? And this question is open to everyone. So who would like to go ahead?
I think I can start. So in my project, to understand applicable of the service concept, I also try to conduct many tests in other regions of China. One is conducted in the community in north of China, the capital Beijing, and their practice in the local community has inspired me a lot. As to the marketing issue, they say that they cooperate with many non-profit organizations to promote their community activity, because these small organizations have their followers and they have their influence in certain groups of people. And also through this cooperation, with a joint effort of third-party stakeholders, they can keep the system very dynamic. And I also try to seek for outside resources to add to this service system. And I find that one real estate company in China, they are exploring the link between the contemporary stories and the community service. So I have a conversation with the property agency, and they say that in the future, the community service consultation may be considered to be one there of the business to improve the tenants' living experience. So I think we can always seek more external and internal resources to make the to make our service more applicable. Thank you.
I could add to that.
Sure.
So from what I learned is the public social funding is never enough, especially in Thailand. So what I learned is we could build and empower partners to collaborate together. For example, we can contribute not only money, but any skills that we have that we could. so that can lessen the cost that we don't have.
I would add, not from the major project, but from our previous project. For example, when we designed volunteering system for Camden Council, we used a lot of free services like Google Forms, existing stock service websites, and so on. So it was completely free as a result, but quite comprehensive. So it might be a case as well.
Thank you, Kate. So I guess I'll move to the next question. It's from Richard, and it goes to Laura. He says, did you investigate the two-way aspect for users, where they can give back their services as payment for the food? Sorry. This could then add more services for the community of users in sharing skills, resources, etc.
Hi, yeah, thanks Richard for the question, and Maria for relaying it. Yeah, that is definitely something we explored during the co-design workshops. It was made up quite a major element of those. And actually we found during those sessions that users reported that by having an opportunity to give back either financially or through their time would actually reduce the stigma they felt using those services. So it is kind of a really important thing that we considered. At the moment, the community hub is actually being tested with 30 users, kind of in its minimal viable product form, as it was fully funded as it was. And that's why we're kind of able to do that, get the pilot up and running as it is. But in order to make the project sustainable in the future, we do think that it will be necessary to move to a kind of membership model in the future. And that could be your contribution to the membership is financial. Obviously, it would be a really kind of small contribution, or it could be through time. And so it's definitely something to be explored for the second phase. And something that actually did kind of come up just accidentally through the workshops is that two ladies who attended them that didn't know each other previously decided that it would be a really good idea to create recipes for the community, as there were some people using food banks who weren't sure how to use the kind of produce that were being donated. So that's kind of a way of giving back that some of the users have already found, which is great. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Lau. I think that completely answers the question. So moving to the next question from Alex. This is an open question. So it says, thinking about insights, what really surprised you? What did you learn that was unexpected or surprising? Who would like to take this question?
Oh, hello. I want to answer this question. Well, about the insights, actually, during my survey for adult children, actually they might be the freshmen at the university or the secondary in the university, but I choose my user, they are the 18 years old high school student. And because when I do my research, I find if I want to run my service at university, it's not really make sense, because the family, the user with their family, they have a distance, have a physical distance, and also they have an emotional distance. So I change my service to solve the issues, to prevent the communication issues. So it's inspired me some, like, if I want to solve some problem of my user, maybe I need to find another way to offer a service for them. Hope it's just share some inspiration during my service. Thank you.
Thank you, Tia. Go ahead.
Yes, so I researched women's career from perspective of mothers as well, because motherhood has greatest impact on their careers, and because 85% of women in the UK have children. So the biggest, most inspiring insights, I think, were lack of brain space. So when a woman has a child and she goes to a workplace, sometimes she can't think about her work because she think like, is my child okay? Is they eat well and all of that. So sometimes even if it's perfect workplace, you need to do some mental effort to not think about your family. Also, it kind of connected to mom's guilt as well. So women often feel guilty because they work and they are not with their family, and at work they feel guilty that they think more about their family and less about their work. So it's a lot of psychological issues, and we can't solve them just at the workplace.
Thank you, Kate. So we're a bit short of time. Thank you for all the questions. I think we'll take one or two more. So we have a question from Becca. It says, love all your insights, thank you. A question for all the panel. How do you make sure the people who are designing for don't become abstractions? How do you manage to hold in mind that they're real people with real lives and hopes and dreams and histories and futures?
I can start with that one. I think that the most important thing is to just engage your users. So like, if you are constantly kind of testing with them and you're speaking with them, like often they'll tell you if something's wrong, and they'll tell you that like that won't work, especially if you have people who are working directly with those users, even if you're not actually working with your target user and you're working with the people that are working with them. Like they have a very deep understanding of what is going on. And as long as you can kind of really connect to them always, I think you can gain a really good understanding that you're not kind of blue skying it, and that you're not kind of going off into this idealistic world that your service is going to solve all of these different things.
Thanks, Ange. Would anyone else like to add?
I can add a little. To be realistic about the users, you should keep asking and testing your ideas from time to time. Like whenever you have any ideas or you create something, don't think it's like it's going to work. You just need to ask anyone. Like only one people is better than no one. So the prototyping methodology is very important in any stages throughout the service design. Yeah.
Thank you, Jean. So I'll move to another question. This will be the last one. So tell us about, the question says, tell us about the impact and value you anticipate your service will generate, both for service users, of course, but more importantly for the community, other local and national services and agencies. From Alex as well.
I can say something really quickly on this one. I'm not sure about for the community, but for the users, we've done a short evaluation of the pilot project so far. And we found, obviously we were looking at dignity, which is a really hard thing to measure. But we also found that the service is having an impact on kind of increasing community cohesion, reducing food waste that was happening from kind of food parcel donations. There, we also found that there's been an increased variety in people's diets and also healthier eating. So I think, yeah, for the service users, obviously that's really easy to measure because you've got direct kind of contact with them. I think the question about how do you look at the impact and value created for the community is a really interesting one. I don't know if I can answer it. I don't know if anyone else can try.
I can start, I can continue. So I think for mine, I was really looking at how can you create these better cross-sector collaborations. So how does one organization start and then connect with other organizations and utilize these same tools to create a really good foundation for future collaborations? And how do you actually really reflect on your own service propositions and making sure that you're being interconnected within your own services before looking outwards? And I think the ultimate hope of that was that more and more organizations within the community would take this approach, and that more and more communities would become collaborative and realize that they have so much to give between one another, and that they could become this interdependent system that relied less on these external forces, but that they could provide everything that they needed within the community together.
Thanks, Ange. Would anyone else like to add something? Okay, so I'm afraid we'll have to end the session here. A big thank you to our panelists for sharing their projects and answering so many of our questions today. And a big thank you to you too, the audience, for turning in. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the tutors of the Service Design Master for all of their support and guidance, Silvia, Marion, and Vinny for helping us to host the degree show. And last but not least, the AV team for the tech support. This event was part of the London College of Communication Postgraduate Showcase. Feel free to browse through the students' work after this event by visiting the Postgraduate Showcase, the link to which has been added in the chat. Thank you for taking part. You may now leave the session.